Okay, looks like we are live and I'm back. It's been a couple of months since I've done YouTube, but I'm not dead. I'm alive. And I'm coming back with a bang because I have with me here the one, the only Vegan Gaze, which has been a long time coming. I've been a long time fan of Vegan Gazes. And so I'm really excited to have you on the program. Nice to meet you, Elle. I mean, we've talked a few times behind the scenes, scheduling you interviews on Wayne's channel, and you also did one on his channel. But this is the first time we're gonna like really have like an in-depth conversation, so I'm pretty psyched about that.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm interested in what you might ask, and it's weird being on this side, like,
Yeah.
so yeah, let's go for
Well,
it.
you've been always, I thought, really good. And I mean, so I'll just start with the way that I got to know you was through your channel, of course. But it was really like the lives that you were doing. I'm someone who consumes a lot of YouTube. I like the live streams like Vegan Gains does and you do. And I think like there's something really cool about the live streams where you kind of, there's no filter. Like you really get to know the person.
Yeah,
So I know you as someone who's like kind of introverted, which is also interesting because you kind of live, you seem to be introverted, but you also live this external lifestyle on your YouTube channel. But you come across very authentic, and I always found your banter to be very good. You're very sharp-witted. And when you know this about vegan content and stuff, it can be really grueling to watch. So
yeah.
sometimes it's really nice to watch this content with someone you can kind of cathartically groan with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally feel that. Like, I'm definitely an introverted person, and I suppose it just kind of like we're constantly seeing the sacrifices that people feel like they should make for a movement because of how important they think that what that movement is trying to provide is.
Mhm.
And I just want to normalize, you know, not eating animals, their secretions, not paying for them to be exploited for like animal testing, and all the ways that we exploit them. And so for me to do that, I have to be that person that's like, ha, how funny is it that like people do that? It's ridiculous. Like this is, I mean, like I'm trying to just be someone who is just normalizing not doing that. And in
Mhm.
order to do that, you have to get out of your comfort zone and do things that are quite discomforting.
Yeah, discomforting for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, so I remember so in doing the research for this, I looked back at your interview with Wayne to remind myself about some of the things about you. One, that you've been vegan for about 10 years.
Yes.
And over the course of that time, you've done all kinds of activism. So you've done investigations, you've done all these street debates, you've done uh online debates, and you've really honed your craft over the years. So I mean, speaking of like putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, well, let's talk about some of the things that like were a real struggle for you to do. Probably the YouTube channel at first, I'm guessing, or did that come naturally to you more so than you thought?
It didn't come naturally at all. No, no. I just remember I was doing Tumblr. That was the first like place where suddenly I was vegan, and I just couldn't shut up about it because I just couldn't believe. It just hit me like a rock.
Yeah.
And so I was on there, and I was finding it very hard to express myself through text, which is very ironic, I suppose, because my profession is writing. um,
Mm.
so I was just like, I can't. I feel like people love a face, they love a person to connect to. If I just like go on YouTube and I'm just a face, I'm like a normal person, because at the time there were a lot of like raw foodists and like people trying to
Mm.
get fit, and I was like, that's not what I think it's about. I think it's just about not exploiting animals, not oppressing animals. So I'm just like a normal kind of quirky person, I suppose. I'll go on, connect with people, and they'll stop eating animals, they'll stop, paying for their secretions and buying animal tested ingredients and stuff like that. And yeah, that's how it began. And it was very uncomfortable. And to this day, it's still quite uncomfortable. I still get butterflies when I have to like edit a video. I
Mhm.
still get butterflies before I go live and everything. So it was very difficult, and it's remained quite difficult. It's not very natural at all.
Hmm. Well, I hope I'm not, spilling anything that I shouldn't, but I can say when we were talking behind the scenes before you did your interview with Wayne,
Mhm,
uh, I know that you were kind of nervous. You had mentioned being kind of nervous, and you did very well. I think like a lot of times it's just kind of a good lesson for all of us that sometimes the nerves actually don't show. Like they're
mhm.
much more intense to us than to someone else. Like you may see someone like shaking or
Yeah.
whatever, but you obviously weren't to that level.
No, I felt it on the inside.
And was that because for your channel that was sort of like, outside the norm of what you would typically do?
It was because I hadn't spoken to Wayne before. So I
Mm,
have I have quite bad social anxiety.
mm,
I feel it, like, especially when I'm doing street outreach. The first couple especially are very like, oh, I've never spoken to this person. I don't know like how to be with them really. And I think that's what was setting it off. I'd never spoken to Wayne personally, so
mm.
I didn't, have that initial meetup. So that in that context was what was doing it for me, I think.
Gotcha, gotcha. No, I've seen you do online debates with loads of people, and you seem very in control. You seem very well. I mean, you know the facts, of course. You've been doing this for a long time, so there's obviously a confidence that comes with that. But in those instances, you're talking to someone who's possibly just out there to troll you, and you seem to
Mhm.
handle it quite well.
It's what's weird, like, it's worse in person, but online, if I just hear a voice and I know that they are non-vegan, they don't understand, they need to make that connection, something takes over. And I tell people sometimes if they're a bit scared, like, I picture that I don't this is what means that it becomes easier as time goes on and I'm doing it. I just start picturing that I don't exist and I'm this vessel that
Mm,
animals are speaking through for that moment, which you technically kind of are. You're not you are obviously important, but there and then you're not the important person. Your message is what's important. That's what like annoys the person. That's what resonates with the person. So I really try and pay attention to the fact anything that I'm concerned about someone like perceiving me, it doesn't matter. They're not really perceiving me. They're going to pay attention to what I say. And what I say is not for my message, it's for the message of someone else and others.
right.
So it really just takes over. And suddenly I do feel like I'm in mission mode. But
Hmm.
sometimes it doesn't, if I'm really tired or I'm just feeling a bit off, I can't get into that zone. So sometimes it can be seen, but for the most part, especially online debates, I'm
Hmm.
in my element really, which is really nice. It feels like basically anxiety free.
Yeah, anytime I've done sort of like a disruption style of activism, which really doesn't come naturally from me at all, because I
Mhm,
really don't like to be that person. I find it very cringy in a way, but like you, I just think about what the animal would want me to do and just kind of try to take myself out of the equation. It's easier said than done, but that is how you kind of get through those situations, especially when it's something that doesn't really come naturally to you. So let me just make sure that we've done like a proper intro for you, and maybe you can introduce yourself, but I'll just say, like Vegan Gaze has been just a great YouTube channel over the years, doing great reaction videos, that sort of thing. And I believe you work with Vegan FTA now. But I
mhm,
will say before you do your intro, I just want to also thank you because the way that we met, getting Wayne on your channel, which was for the Ridgeland trial when he was on trial for Ridgeland. Uh, you were very easy to work with, and it was just really pleasant to have someone support us in that way. It meant a lot to Wayne, I know, because it doesn't really. It's not always easy to like reach out to someone and have them to just be like, "Yeah, what do you need?" And I owe a little
Mhm.
bit of credit to our mutual friend Natalie Fulton for helping me get in touch with you.
Yeah.
She's really awesome activist as well. But yeah, introduce yourself a little bit, just so that the few viewers I have that don't know who you are will know your channel a little better.
Yeah, so I'm Elle, otherwise known as Vegan Gaze, and I focus basically on just trying to react to content in like a popular kind of form, like a commentary style. And I just try and find ways to normalize veganism and animal rights. And yeah, I do that through live streaming, I do that through videos, and I do that through like sometimes outreach and things of that nature. A lot of my content now is made for vegan FTA, but I have now found the balance, and I'm trying to find fun new ways to try and oh sorry I'm trying to
That's
find fun new ways to provide catharsis for people who need it, while trying to advocate for the animals. And
right,
that's
right.
probably what I'd say, I think.
Yeah, because there is that balance of like we make content that is primarily, I think, consumed by vegans, and
Yes.
that's obviously not necessarily the people that we're trying to reach with our content, or at least how we started. I mean, a lot of us like end up doing. I don't even mean to say us. A lot of vegan YouTubers who have been around a while seem to make a lot of content that is sort of a support for other activists, which is important. Um, and I will say that's also one of the things that kind of like let me know Elle is like a real one, because you would constantly on your channel shout out other activists and try to
Yeah.
lead people to other channels, small channels, people who were doing great work and kind of needed more views. And that's how I discovered actually quite a few people. I'm trying to think back, and I'm not sure if I just stumbled upon your channel or something. I know you had some connection with David Rams, and I was a fan of David Rams as well. Um, but yeah, I can't remember like when the first viewing was, or how I came across your channel, but I definitely have come across many people's channels through your channel.
That's
Um,
sick.
yeah, which I think it's just very appreciated. I know that these people who are like have small channels and stuff, like they really appreciate that. So Natalie is one of those people, and Natalie's the one who got us in touch, and yeah, just numerous others. I really like your chemistry that you have with that YouTuber Interspecies. You guys seem to
Oh
have
yes,
like
yes.
you have a nice chemistry together. Um, so yeah, so tell me a little bit about how your channel has evolved over the years, because I'm sure it started out and like a lot of people, you go vegan, you're like, well, it's gonna like, I'll just tell people it'll happen. And then you have to go through that like disappointment phase where it's like, wow, everybody isn't just taking the message and running with it. It really takes some work. So
Yeah.
how has your channel changed over the years in that respect?
It's become more informed. Like I really don't want to put out the wrong message. Like,
Mm,
sometimes I make a video and it's like based on like a troll or something like that, and it catches me, and I don't like that. So I try and be more that way. And it's become more it goes through phases where I become like angry again,
mm,
and it becomes more unapologetic and like F you.
mm.
um but I suppose the quality of the videos has improved. Like I was thinking the other day, I was like, I wish I knew the things I know now back then, and I could have been making better content. Um, but yeah, before I was quite naive and did think if I just tell people, then that will be enough, and I'll make one video on one specific thing, and that will I'll never have to do it again. But it's made me realize you have to be relentless, and you just have to keep saying these things because people are like, I had no idea pigs were in
Mm,
farrowing crates. I had no idea. They pull out the teeth of the babies, without any pain relief. and you just have to just keep saying the same things over and over again, and it feels really repetitive. And I think something, that is something that I've been looking into recently doing, is making videos on the obvious. And it's like we become in our bubble and think, oh, everyone knows these things. But they don't know. For a lot of people, if they did know, they wouldn't pay for it. So yeah, it's rehashing. If anything, it will go full circle. I'll be making videos again on the simple things, and hoping it reaches people that need to see it. And vegans will support what they already know anyway, because they're against it. And yeah, that's the kind of evolution. It's taken a circle.
Well, I think it's probably good that it goes that way, because one, it keeps you fresh. Like you're not just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And probably every phase of that circle is hitting someone who needs to be hit on that phase of that circle. Like there are people, I think, that need to hear F you sometimes. Like there are definitely people who resonate more with that type of approach. Maybe not the majority, but like I think some people just need to hear it. When you look back over the years, are there any particular videos that you're very fond of or proud of that you think like really did break through?
I like the one that I did of Asmongold. That's actually my highest viewed video. My videos haven't really kind of made it out there. I'm just like most people on YouTube, where it's just very, very hard, and I have a lot of improvements to make. But in that video, I was very chill. I was just being informative, like loads of, there's so many comments on that video about how horrible I was and everything. But literally, I've looked it back. I will not be gaslit. I was one of my chillest selves, because I knew, I was like, this could potentially, as with any other video, go out there to fans who aren't going to be very receptive. So I'm going to be very relaxed and just give the message. And for context, he was cooking up a steak, and I was just like thinking, okay, well, you're not gonna be okay probably with paying for dogs to be killed so you can eat them. And then he made a reaction video to it, put me in the description, and he said, no, I would be fine with people killing dogs. That's fine. And actually, it was funny because loads of his fan base were confused by what he had said. But of course, he put me in the description, so they all came over and were telling me how horrible I was. But it reached some people, and it was really good. They were willing to listen. And I'm quite proud of that one. So I think I want to conduct myself that way for the most part, and not be a little sassy, but not too sassy.
Right. Well, I mean, you knew your audience for that particular video. Asmongold, I don't know him that well. I did see him on your page though. I was looking at like what are the most popular videos, and I assume I've watched that back in the day. But remind me, like, who is this guy? I know he's a popular YouTuber, but what kind of content does he do?
He does popular, like, it's like stuff for gamer bros, I would say. I don't know if I'm like, but he does talk politics. He talks about like popular things that are happening in the moment. He's like a reaction channel, like primarily. He doesn't really make his own. Well, he does, because he was cooking up, the body of a cow.
Yeah.
But yeah, primarily he's reacting, and I think he got popular through gaming. And yeah, he's got like 1.5 million subscribers or something like that. He's very well known.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I mean, gaming is big. I know you game a little bit too. I've seen you do some live gaming before. That's always fun. Yeah, I'm thinking about maybe I should do that too. I got a PS5 now, and I should get
Nice.
on that thing. Yeah. And that reminds me, when I was looking at your channel, like one of the videos that I saw in your popular vids was a video about a game. It was like, oh, is this a new vegan game? I forget
Oh,
what it was called, like Human
Human
Farm.
Farm, yeah.
Yeah, something
That
like
never
that.
came out, I don't think. I really
Really?
wanted to, yeah. I don't
Did
think
you
it came out.
did you know about the game that Patrick Baboumian is making?
Yes, I know, but I can't
Yeah.
remember the name of it, but like I would play that.
I saw you did an update about it 9 days ago, and it's called Uncaged Total Liberation.
Oh,
And
sick.
yeah, that's gonna be awesome. I hope that he gets it on like a gaming, like a console. I don't play computer games. I play like, a PlayStation or something, but
Mhm.
I think it costs too much money or something. But that will be really exciting. I mean, gaming is definitely like one of those areas that has not been tapped into that well. Um,
No.
and yeah, I mean, like you said, like there's this gaming bro community, and like a lot of young people really get a lot from games and spend a lot of time playing video games. And I mean, we've got people like Wayne Shung, we've got like you doing these investigations and pig farms and stuff. Like, I mean, I don't mean to like butter people up in that way, but like these are like kind of like real life superheroes in a way. Like they're like we're playing all these like games where like people are sneaking around doing stealth missions and stuff. Like it's right for like rescue type games like Patrick Baboumian is making. So I'm glad he had that thought to do that. Um, how have the gaming on your channel? How has that gone? Has it got you like a boost in views, do you think?
No, not really. I was just trying it out. I think my
Mm,
audience is very interesting. Like I don't think there's a specific like demographic. So there's a lot of like older people who don't actually have an interest or like games. Not to say all old people
mm,
don't like games, but there seems to be some sort of trend there. So yeah, there's people who just really don't like it, and there's who won't watch, and then there's people who do. So I haven't really like tapped out. So I kind of gave up on that.
mm,
I seem to do things which is not good as a creator, but I kind of do things when I fancy it to try
mhm,
and stop myself burning out. I'm like, if this is taking my fancy, I'll go down this route. Because yeah, I think I would burn out a lot if I tried to play the game, of
mhm.
algorithms and SEOs and stuff like that. I
Oh,
do it, but I can't do it like devotedly, and that will probably be the downfall of my like that'll probably be why my channel never really amounts to a large quantity. But I'm more comfortable with doing this for the long run. I see myself being involved with animal rights for my whole life because I see the need for it the entirety of that time probably.
yeah.
So I want to be a bit careful about. I've seen many people come and go, and I don't want that to be the same for me. So
I'm the same way. I'm a kindred spirit that, I started my YouTube channel. I was like, I'm going to do two a week. Actually, I was going to do two a week. Found out pretty quickly, like that's a pretty intense schedule. And,
yes.
and I've just taken 2 months off. And I'm also working on scheduling an interview with a musician who has nothing to do with animal rights just because I want to. And,
Mhm.
I figure, why not? Like, especially right now, like when my channel is so little, like this is a great time to kind of experiment. But people did tell me when I started my channel, they're like, consistency is the main thing. And
Yes.
so I've already given that up. So my channel will be destined to be small, except for this, we'll get a big bump from this one.
Of course. It's funny that you bring up music because recently I felt very like towards the middle of this year, I was feeling completely lost. I was thinking, look, I can't get to where I like need to get in my mind. I want to be much bigger and more influential with the message. I find that tough. I'm not really built for this. My channel's very old, so people have already heard my opinion and probably don't want to hear it again. So I felt very lost and felt like maybe I should just do my animal rights work for my job, and then that be it. But I went to see To the Grave, who are a vegan deathcore band.
Nice.
And that lit a fire in me, like, oh
Mm.
no, I need to, like, any spare moment I have to do some work, I need to carry on doing this. And yeah, it was just their music is so, the lyrics I shan't
Mm.
repeat it, it's
You
deathcore.
shan't repeat it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's deathcore mixed with like an animal rights message, so you can only imagine. And so music is so powerful anyway.
Mm.
um but yeah, that just made me think that was what's pushed me again. I just listen to them in the gym, and when
Yeah.
I'm
You've been
ready
hitting
to
the
go.
gym too, like,
Yeah.
and honestly, like, you're talking about getting fit, and that's part of it too. Like, my time working with Wayne Shung also, it was really impressive to just see how much he would hit the gym, and
Mhm.
I really think that that's a big part of why he's been successful and why he's been so influential in the movement, is because he's outworking everybody. And it
Mhm.
starts in the gym. So I just saw that. I tried to sort of emulate that and become a machine like him. And I found like, wow, I can't keep the pace with this guy. But he's been doing it for years and years. So I'm glad to hear that you're also like hitting the gym. It's interesting that that the music is like, especially like a deathcore type band. It's so energetic.
Mhm.
And yeah, I get that too. Like, um, I often will need music or something to remind me or to drive me or
Yes.
just to get me in that mode. Um, but I'm really glad that you have the maturity to realize that, what you can do. Like, I'm not gonna, like you're saying, like, I'm gonna do things the way I want to do them
Mhm.
when it's time for me to do them. I think that's a really healthy way to approach it. Um, I even talking when we were trying to get you on, like, okay, so Vegan Gaze maybe doesn't have like 100,000 subscribers or something, but
Mhm.
she's very well respected in the community. I mean, I think so. I think amongst like a lot of people. So not everybody has to have the role of like being Earthling Ed.
No, not everyone can.
Right.
And that's the thing with me. Like, I have severe demand avoidance. Like, I had a personal trainer at the gym, and I hated it, and I hated every minute of it. And then I stopped going to the gym for 4 months. Like, that is
Mhm.
who I am, and I try, to undo it,
Mhm.
but I do know who I am, and I I try and improve that, because I see it as a potential flaw. But I know my limits, and I need to make it as free flowing as possible, and keep myself inspired rather than pushing too hard. Like,
Right.
that's why I like the gym, because I am pushing myself, but I'm doing a good service to myself. So
Mhm. Mhm.
everything has to be done in this like intricate, delicate way, so it doesn't set off my brain to
Right.
stop me. So that's what I mean when I say I'm finding that balance. Um,
Right.
I really, this year for me, it's coming to the end, so we kind of reflect on this year for me. It's been about balance finding and knowing where
Mm.
my buttons are, and knowing that I can't push my own buttons. Like, other people
Mhm.
can and get me to do stuff, but I can't. So yeah, I do push myself a little bit, but that I'm not like I'm not like an Earthling Ed, like smashing it. I'm not like a Wayne, like just
Mhm. Mhm.
Wayne is just relentlessly on the ball.
Right. Right.
And he's able to just talk to anyone for however long, and go and push, and it's fantastic, and those people are really needed. But then I guess people like me are also needed, where we're like, we can do our thing, and promote other people, and have catharsis, but we can't get out there and push.
Well, you mentioned the word balance, and I think that's a great word because I mean, you also balance out those types of people, because I mean, one of the things, and this is not a criticism of Wayne, but because he's on that ball so much, like for instance, that was one of the things that I was able to bring to his team, was that I haven't always been that person. And I've been someone who just consumed YouTube for a while. And
Mhm.
so I knew all these people. Like I could get him in touch with you and um all these other like people that he wouldn't have necessarily come across because he's not spending his time on YouTube.
Mhm.
Um it allows like for other ideas and other focuses to come in, because it can get really like just one, singularly focused on the animals. You can almost like lose touch with reality in a way.
Yes.
I
Yeah. And
mean,
I think that's like it's funny, as an introverted person, you recognize the importance of community for other people, like especially in more of an extroverted manner. I'm quite a very small, not many people, kind of, that's how I operate. But I recognize that a movement is so much bigger than that. And
mhm,
it's a very uncomfortable territory for people who are introverted. So you need that, you need to, be like you, knowing those people who have existed in that area, and trying to prop them up and bring them together. We're all very connected. Like you talked about Natalie, like we know each other
mhm,
through,
mhm.
and you do need that, and it's so important to keep that community
Yeah.
thriving. And that's part of why I was promoting all the YouTube channels, because one, I've been going for 10 years and I haven't hit 10K. So I know it's very tough.
Mhm.
But secondly, like the movement thrives on community and support, and that will keep people going. And I know the boost that they'll get when they're like, oh god, I got 20 subscribers today,
Mhm.
rather than
Yeah.
like the one that I lost.
Right, right.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I know you feel this like when you're talking about the gym and getting the inspiration from the music. Like I have felt this over the last like few months when I wasn't doing any YouTube. But there's a sort of guilt I feel. Like, am I
yeah.
doing enough for the animals? Like, so like even like things like going to the gym, like they don't actually have to be a service to the animals. They can be a service to you, but by
Mhm.
servicing yourself, you are servicing the animals because you're
Yeah.
making yourself better for that. By the way, make sure you send me the name of that band so that we can like link to their music video or something. That would be pretty dope.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
to the grave. I'll send that to you. I did an album review with Chris Hines
oh,
of,
nice,
yeah,
nice.
Everyone's a Murderer,
Yeah,
and it's just vegan, vegan, vegan the whole way
yeah,
through.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll send that to you.
And Chris Hines, like, that's another example of someone who has like a huge amount of respect in the movement,
Legend.
but it's not like necessarily a household name outside the movement. Deserves to be, but
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
100%.
yeah. Um, so that it's interesting you mentioned that band. I hate to make you retread and tell stories you've told a million times before, but I know that a band is kind of why you went vegan in the first place. Could you tell that story?
Yeah, so obviously there'd been loads of seeds planted when I was little, like about, like one of the big things was like bear biling.
Hmm.
I saw that as a kid and I thought, God, what other people, not me, do to animals is sickening.
Mhm.
And then I was doing music for a punk band and I was making a music video, and we had to do a bit of mise en scène, which is like matching up the video message with something that's relevant. So I asked them what it was about, and they said it was about factory farming. So I was like, okay, I'll look up factory farming. And the first thing that popped up was the dairy industry. And I was like, hang on, like these guys go to McDonald's. I'm pretty sure from my memory, I went to McDonald's with them. One of
Mm.
them is vegetarian. And I was like, oh, well, but this is dairy. Like to stop this, you'd have to be vegan. And then it just made me realize I have to be vegan, because that is terrible, and the things that we do to animals I'm paying for. And I vowed to go vegan, and
Mhm.
I did. I think my vow, I was like, as soon as I turn 18, I'm going to do it. So I can leave and do that. And yeah, I I did it, and that was kind of what pushed me. So it was music that did it, not like any song in particular or anything,
Mhm.
but yeah, music inadvertently made me do it.
Sounds like music has been kind of like a consistent thread in your life. And just like looking at your t-shirt kind of has that metal aesthetic a little bit. Like, so I'm guessing you kind of gravitate towards that heavier style of music. Is that right?
Yeah, I was brought up like when I was like 7. My uncle was an inspiration for music. He gave me like CDs of like Machine Head. I
Mm,
remember Lamb of God, Rammstein, Slipknot, Evanescence,
mm,
that sort of stuff. So yeah, but
yeah.
I like all kinds of music, but deathcore is my go-to and has
Yeah.
been for a while now. It's
Yeah.
evolved to that.
Is it like you get like kind of a feeling of like release, like I can get out? Oh, I've got flies, and you like you can feel like you're kind of working things out, like get some anger out.
Not even that. I feel quite calm. I feel
Nice.
quite
Yeah.
calm, and I feel calm, cool, and collected when it's
Yeah.
playing. It just relaxes me to hear that anger. And but at the gym it's more of a, yeah, it keeps me calm and in the zone.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's cool, calm, collected.
Well,
Not angry.
when I was in college, like decades ago, like our favorite band was this punk metal band that we would go see, like probably like 100 times. We probably saw them, but they would
Well.
be like mosh pits, and it was like the best feeling because in this particular, like I know not all mosh pits are like this, but in this band, just like everybody would help each other up. It
Mhm.
was like a real camaraderie. So it was a little bit rough, but it was, there was like a love. And
Yes.
then I've been to other ones where like people are doing karate with the air and you're like in danger of getting hit by something.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I'm not a mosher because of my glasses. They're very expensive, so
oh, I see.
I watch from the sidelines like, hell yeah.
Nice. So you won't do like contacts or anything other? You go
I
with glasses?
can't,
Oh, really?
no, like my prescription's so high, that they are quite heavy, and I'm
Mm.
eye squeamish anyway, so it's just a disaster all around.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What were you when you were doing these music videos? Is it because you were like a photographer, or what were you
Oh,
doing?
sorry, yeah,
Videography?
I was studying media
Oh,
and
cool. Yeah.
film at A level, like college, but no, you would like a bit off between uni and and school.
Hmm.
I was doing that, so I was just like, oh yeah, we were told to make a music video, and I made a music video for them, and it was pretty rubbish, but it was all right for the time. Now I'd make a sick one.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
badass.
be
Yeah.
banging.
Have you ever
Um,
made more music videos?
no,
No.
no, but I did love that, and the only things I've done outside of the vegan stuff is I made a video for my friend's wedding as a gift,
Oh, nice. Yeah.
and that came out really good. I was like, wow, people charge a lot for wedding cinematography, so maybe I should go down that route.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey, you always have that to fall
yeah,
back on
but
if you need to.
I'm just like, I'm not passionate about it, and I know what I'm like if I'm not passionate about something, it will
Mm,
just die on its knees.
right. Right.
Um, so it's like that's why I've tried so hard, and I was fighting very, very hard. So I'm thankful for where I am now, to make veganism, animal rights my job,
Hmm.
because I was like, this is the thing that my head has always been stuck on, and I need to follow that path. So luckily now I can do that. I was always working in like hospitality and everything like that.
Hmm.
Try, alongside making my videos. So I'd come home, make the videos or live stream. Or I worked in a hospital as well, and that was really tough. And then I'd come home and live stream and just hope that it could be a permanent thing until it's not needed anymore, but it will be needed throughout my entire life probably. So
yeah, I think so. Let's hope not, though.
No,
you know, so I live in the United States. You live in the UK, right? In the UK. So you've also been vegan longer than I've been vegan for 7 years. So you've had longer to, see the movement go through its cycles. So, and also just this different perspective being across the pond. Do you feel optimistic? What do you think? Like, because there are times when I feel kind of downcast about how things are going, and other times I feel up. How about you?
When I saw the US election recently, that was the first time I actually thought, oh, are we actually going to change? But like inevitably it does change. There is no like I remember as a kid like having a computer that took like 10 minutes to turn on. Like and then suddenly before I know it, like screens are everywhere, and the world has very much changed in the short time I've been alive. So I think it will change. It just won't change through the goodness of people's hearts. Things often don't. They change because the survival depends on it, and because it will become more profitable to go vegan in that instance. It will become more profitable because it will be like planet saving and stuff like that. So I think it will be very environment focused, and then we'll look back and be like, oh my god, how could people do that? That's horrible. Thank god we don't do that anymore. Thank god we changed our ways. And I don't think, I think a good thing happens or the bad thing stops happening, and then people look back and they're like, oh my god, that was terrible. I don't think it's kind of this epiphany like collectively en masse. So I do think it will change. I just don't think it will be for the best reasons.
Yeah, I think history plays that out too. Like a lot of things that were abhorrent in the past were probably changed for more practical reasons than they were for like even things like slavery in the United States and that sort of thing. And then we look back, and I'm sure there were definitely I'm not a history buff, so I might just be talking out of my ass, but I do feel like a lot of the people that were kind of propped up as heroes at the time weren't necessarily doing it out of the goodness of their heart.
No, and it's not to say like I'm not being gloomy about it and assuming that people are bad or anything. I actually think people inherently are quite like teeter on good. I've one of my favorite books in the world is Humankind: A Hopeful History by Rutger Bregman. And it talks about how people aren't inherently bad and proves it pretty extensively.
I have a friend who just recommended me that book.
Best book. I would recommend that on my deathbed. Yeah.
And why is it? Just to give you a little bit more optimism? Or
not even optimism. This is the interesting thing about it. It says realism has been hijacked by gloom. Like if you're being realistic, you're assuming that a person's going to do probably a bad thing. And we do that. Oh, realistically, they're probably going to bully them. We think that. But so realism is actually like somewhere in the middle. Like it's not this doom and gloom. So I think instead of giving you hope, it does kind of give you hope. But I think it realigns you. Because negativity and all this stuff has actually overtaken, and it will overtake us because we are programmed to really pay attention to the negative, because the negative, in a kind of wilderness context meant we could maybe get eaten. So we've got to remember the danger really quickly and be scared of the danger so we don't come into contact with it. So I think it just injects some realism into our thinking.
Well, that's interesting because part of the way that I've conducted the interviews on my channel so far is like I've had started recently to, at the end of the interviews, ask people if they had book recommendations or what are the things
Oh,
that they were
cool.
reading. And here you've already recommended one. But let me go ahead and ask you that. Like, are there some other books that you have found inspiration from? And they don't even have to be animal rights stuff. They
Mhm.
could be, but just or even just things you enjoy.
There's a really good one. Like now reading more animal rights stuff, but like what I'd recommend as well, and I've forgotten the author name, but it's called "The Body Keeps the Score," and
Hmm.
it's about how trauma affects the body and the mind. And I think that's a very important one because, yeah, we are all, though we are all technically vessels for the animals, we are flesh vessels with feelings and thoughts. So it's very important. And I think a lot of people, if not most people, are affected by trauma.
Yeah.
And you know, we need to know how to navigate that best, and in order to improve ourselves. And that is definitely a book that I'd recommend.
Nice. Yeah, I know from watching your live streams, and you've been sort of open about this, that you've, gone through therapy and that sort of thing. I don't want to put you on the spot. Um, but are is that part of the way that you've been able to like go through like your years of activism and that sort of things, like getting external help, that kind of thing?
Yeah, like, definitely, because I would talk about that. I don't think until, maybe like a year ago, I realized just how much going into farms and everything had affected me. Because when it comes to like, I watch now a lot of cruel things happen to animals, and I just feel I feel kind of like just angry. That's how I feel,
Mm,
and I think we tend to think of anger as this kind of permissible emotion. It's not really anything complicated. You're just mad.
mhm, mhm.
When actually, if something's making you angry, there's something very deep happening there. Um, and yeah, that the getting help for what you've seen is really good. Especially, I've had quite a couple of therapists. One was vegan, and the other two, I was like, you know what, this is great. You're getting paid to listen to me. They weren't vegan. I don't know
Oh
if they
yeah.
are. Yeah, but I'm going to tell you in detail exactly what I saw. And yeah, I don't know
Good
how
idea.
they don't receive, they don't tell me, you know, they're not going to tell me, oh, you know, plants feel pain though, or how they felt when I said that
What if
stuff.
they did? That'd
What
be
they do.
incredible.
I mean,
You
I
could
bet you that has happened,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
there can be some unprofessional behavior.
Well, I
Yeah.
very encourage people to think creatively, and this is something I hadn't thought of. To get a therapist, they have to listen to your activism.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It was fantastic. So I was like, wow. It was weird because I was just like, I don't know if I want to be telling a non-vegan this because you're not going to get it.
Yeah,
But at the same time, I was like, ah, you're not going to get it. You're going to get it in
yeah,
a minute.
yeah, you're gonna get it.
Yeah.
It's That's interesting because I started my vegan journey. I hate to use that word because it's
Mhm.
always the ex-vegans who use the word. But anyway, going vegan for me started with watching Earthlings. So it was just the full blown
Yes.
and I'm someone who can watch stuff like that, I think, and not be too terribly affected. Like I was affected enough that I was like, well, this is messed up. I'm not taking part in this. But then I've done activism, like even things that to me aren't super intense. So for instance, a lot of people will find like that like a vigil can be really intense. I've never
Yes.
felt that, but I've been around when people were crying during vigils and I wondered, is there something like about me where I like why am I not feeling this in that same way? And I wonder if it's similar to like how you just described in your therapy, like that things are happening, they're kind of deep down,
Mhm.
and you kind of need to nurture it a little bit and
Yeah.
not ignore it.
It's interesting you say that because the last time I went to a vigil a couple of months ago, I cried my eyes out. Like I hadn't been to something for a little bit. I'd taken that little step back and I was still obviously doing the work and everything, but like not to the degree. And I was just thinking like how was I doing this like every weekend that I could? Um
Hmm, hmm.
because, and now, like, I can't, I just can't handle it. Like, this is just terrible. So there is something happening, and it's not linear,
Yeah.
so one day it might just hit you like a
Yeah.
train. You never know. But
Um,
yeah.
Without telling you to expose any of that, is there anything that you realized through your work in therapy that like really had cut you deep in terms of the activism? I don't mean like things in your past, but
Yeah, I think I took the path of, like, people are literally evil and they must be if this is happening. But I
mm,
think it's a lot more complicated than that.
yeah.
Um, that's the problem. Is I think our brains want to simplify something and go, well, that's just evil. There's nothing else happening here. But unfortunately, it's this complicated, complex mess to try and figure out. And
Mhm.
um, I think that's what was happening when I was in my angry phase. But now I'm like, this is more complicated than I can understand, and I don't understand why people do this. And I think if people thought about it on a deeper level, they wouldn't understand even why they think it's acceptable. And there's all these complicated things happening when people are trying to give excuses, they're deflecting, all these things that people do when
Mhm.
they are not in a mental position to actually handle their own emotions and reality. They do all these things. So I'm like, there's something very complicated going on here. I don't think the general person is actually comfortable with this. So I'm just going to keep talking about it until, unfortunately, they're ready, because they have the power.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it made me realize, like, because I really do try and like, more than anything, when I, like, die, I want people to think that I was good, like a good person.
Mhm.
So there's all these things. I think psychology is very important in understanding the way that people behave when it comes to, like, non-veganism or anti-veganism. Because yeah, there's all these tactics that our brain does to defend us.
Yeah.
They have to be the bad person. I didn't do anything wrong. This reality now has to completely shift. Narcissists, how they navigate the world.
Mhm.
It's very complicated and intricate, and it's more than just people are evil or anything like that.
Mhm.
So that's what it made me realize. Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you're like, you think of yourself as a good person and then you're confronted with something where it's like, you're doing something terribly wrong. I think it's good for, I think it's great that for me, I was able to just be alone in my apartment watching Earthlings rather than someone telling me
Hmm.
like, this is fucked up what you're doing, because then I may have responded very defensively.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because yeah, I didn't think of myself as a bad person, and knew I wasn't intentionally a bad person.
Hmm.
And then we know as like for instance, if you're looking at slaughterhouse footage or something like that, we understand why the workers are there. And it's not necessarily that they are evil, that they could be, in a desperate situation or they just need work, that sort of thing. So yeah, yeah, it makes us think about things like on a very deep level,
Hmm.
unfortunately. And um, it's like you can't always do that all the time. Like sometimes you just got to
No.
game and have some fun.
Yes, that sometimes you do have to do the escapism, and I've been trying to do that a lot this year, especially. Try not to think too deeply about things, and try and rack my brain at, like, why people are doing things, because I'm always searching for the why. But just accept that this is how it is. It doesn't have to be, and it won't be forever,
Hmm.
and we have a part to play in that. Um, but yeah, like, you could be a very wonderful, good person who's made lots of mistakes, and you've got there eventually. But the important part is trying to improve. And I wish people thought more like that, because then I think we would be in a better position.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. One of the conversations I plan on having very soon is with Jack Higgs, and I think it's a
Mhm.
good time because of I've been seeing videos of him and Tash Like I don't know if you saw recently, like where people were like throwing drinks at them.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very interesting, like that the people who are doing that are sort of forgetting that fundamental part that, like you said, these are just flesh and blood human beings.
Hmm.
That people are forgetting that this affects them, it hurts them.
Yeah.
um yeah, I have seen like people like that who go through this intense hatred. Like the vast majority of the feedback seems to be hate that
Hmm.
they get. And I mean, like, I'm someone who I don't think I care that much if someone doesn't like me, but I think I would be pretty affected if like the vast majority was hate. um
Oh yeah, like I don't really care too much, but when I got that like Asmongold thing and I got these like all these people, I'd never experienced that, and I was like, oh, this is quite uncomfortable actually. Like all these
yeah,
people completely taking, they're not listening to what I'm actually saying, and that is a complete pull away of control. And that's the thing with Tash and Jack, like they are two wonderful people
hmm,
who are spreading a message in all these different ways that's fundamentally, please stop torturing these animals.
yeah,
Like, they're subjected to that. It's just ridiculous.
right,
um
right.
yeah, and then you just want to turn around and be like, oh, these people are absolutely evil. But I think it's a case of they're trying to impress their friends.
Hmm,
It's easy to like hate on people and just be like, oh yeah, they're awful because of what they're saying. Like, won't they think of the crop deaths or something like that?
right.
It's very complicated and I hate it. I wish it was more simple, but it doesn't seem to be.
Well, speaking of the Asmongold situation, you mentioned that he like made a video in response and like
Hmm.
tagged you in it, which is like already like kind of that's the goal, right? Like get this big channel to
Hmm.
like, shine a light on this a little bit, even if they're doing it wrongly. So how did that end up? Where did it lead to? Any more back and forths? Did you ever speak with him?
I did a second video and then he didn't respond. So I think
Mm,
he went onto his Reddit and maybe I put it there or someone else had put it there and he saw it. And to this day, I still get comments on that video.
interesting.
Um,
Yeah.
so I think it amounted to something because there were comments, if you look at that video, that were like, "Oh, I watched this and I hated you," but like me and my girlfriend had an argument, and I think you're actually right. Like, so it's funny, like people were watching, who watch Asmongold were then watching me with their
Yeah.
partners, and then they were having arguments about it. And that's the thing, like we are trying to, words are very powerful. We are trying to encourage people to just start talking about this,
Hmm.
because like a lot of why the animals have no power is because nobody has been talking about them and their plight and the fact that they matter in the first place. But like, there's all these people who are like, you collectively increasing and talking more, and having this discourse. And that's why I think things like outreach and everything are so important, because it is a space to just talk about this where the animals didn't have that space.
Yeah.
um and yeah, so I think it was good in that sense. Maybe, for all I know, it could have been bad because this person sounded like she was complaining about like this guy who wasn't doing anything wrong, and maybe I've done negative, but I think it's a positive.
I think it's definitely a positive. That I would be really proud of that if I were you. Like you said you were, and that's valid, I think, because that seems like a coup. Like that's what we want, is like
Mhm.
getting into the spaces that isn't just in our bubble.
Yes.
That's why, people like Tash and like that vegan teacher, like I'm really appreciative of the things that they do and taking in all this hate, because they are reaching out to these influencers and people who are having a sway on people. So you were able to
Yeah.
do that with this Asmongold and his fan base. And yeah, I'm sure. Like, I mean, when I look back at my upbringing and all that, I don't recall very many conversations about animals, and
No.
that's like that's that's what's really heartbreaking. And that's why it's good. I like that you also mentioned, like, cycling around and doing some simple videos of like the
Hmm.
things that we think that people don't know. Like, for instance, you mentioned bear bile farming. Like, I didn't learn about that until probably like 2 years ago. And
Yeah.
I'm like 40 years old, like I'd never heard of that. Um, so like there's just all kinds of things that are systematically hidden from us. And it's yeah, and that's where the compassion can come into, because you realize like people are just being lied to, and they are, it is being hidden from them. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I guess the frustrating part though is just like you try to think back to like, if I was confronted with this, what would I do? And I like to think that I would be open-minded to it, but I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't.
It's interesting because I think there's stages of my life where I wouldn't have been, and there's stages I would. Like, catch me on a bad day. I'm not a very open-minded person. I don't think that I'd like to be.
Hmm.
Um, but catch me on a good day, and I'm probably ready for that message. But this is the thing, it all happens in little, like, I think we kind of beat ourselves up about like, oh, I didn't get that person to go vegan or anything. It's just like, you don't get them to go vegan anyway, they do it. And like, you have been, the conversation doesn't end when you stop talking. That is now in there. That is
Yeah.
now churning and doing something somewhere, as everything does that we are. That's why I like the book, like The Body Keeps the Score, like just how much information our brain is taking in and doing stuff to us that we're not even aware of. So just being there to talk about it, to try and normalize it, to try and be that presence is, I think, very important. And that's why I keep going to stop and then not stop it, like carrying on, because
Yeah. Yeah.
it's too important.
Yeah. And like you said, you feel like you'll be doing this for your whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, we know this problem isn't just going to go away. Like,
No.
and I mean, even a quote unquote vegan world that may be achieved, there's still going to be animals being abused by somebody.
Yes.
So there will never be like a fully vegan world, I don't think.
No.
Um,
Yeah, it would be like, I think in the utopian idea, it would be like what murder is of humans today. Like,
mhm.
it's horrible. Like, nobody really does it, but then some people do. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I really like, I know we're so on a heavy subject, but I really liked that film. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's called Zone of Interest. It won an Oscar, I think. It was an indie film. It was about the Holocaust, but it was about a concentration camp that was like where the Nazi guard lived right next door to
Right.
it. And that they were basically living their lives with all these kids in the garden. I thought it was a really incredible parable to like what we do to animals, where we just like pretend this horrible thing isn't happening. That's like right over the wall. Because in the
Hmm.
movie, it's like literally right over the wall. And yeah, I mean, we've sort of talked about like how we'll look back at this with disgust.
Yes.
But all you got to do is like look back in history and see like how people were able to like live alongside atrocity and do nothing. And
Hmm.
it's not hard to extrapolate from that we could be those people. Like we could do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's heavy conversation. I bring vegan gaze because of her wit and humor, and then we get this intense conversation. Now
And
I'm
then
gonna
you
make
give
it,
me chronic depression.
yeah, chronic depression. And I'm even gonna make it worse because I did want you to tell me. I don't know if you're comfortable. I did want you to tell me about the investigation you did at the pig farm, because I remember when you were showing that on your live and you were wanting people to share it out.
Mhm.
And because you wanted more views on it. So can you tell me a little bit about that? I know you've done a lot more than that, but
Yeah, yeah, it's this pig farm that's right next to a supermarket.
wow,
And you can literally jump over a log and you're in it. So it's not
wow,
like hidden. And I think a lot of people come to the area of Norfolk in the UK and they see all these pig farms and they're open. So I think they think, oh, happy pigs. But what they don't see is that there's these electric fences that are stopping them from going very far. And there's just feces everywhere. And as we know, pigs are clean animals, contrary to what people think. They don't like being covered in their own feces. And they're with, about like 80 others 50 to 80 others in one, I forget what they're called, like a barn, a shed.
Yeah.
And I went there and I was just like, this is the best of the best. This is homegrown, small, like this is what people dream of for animals. And it's a horror show. Like that you get closer, you realize these animals, because the way that we've selectively bred them to not live very long, so many of them are sick. They got like what could be probably like osteoporosis, or they've got pneumonia. They are suffering, and it doesn't matter, like, because they are commodities, and it will never matter that their best interests are not being considered, because until they're not commodities anymore. And I think that was just absolutely shocking. But now that's been exposed. Joey Carbstrong, that's the farm that he went on.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
You mean for like Pignorant or what?
It was in Pignorant briefly, but now it's in
Okay.
Hogwashed.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, so if you want to see what I saw, it's on there as well.
Wow.
So it was just, and I think the most poignant moment for me was one of the bins was like unlocked, which they're not even allowed to be for contamination purposes, and went in, and there were just all these like grown pigs who are still obviously like basically infants, and they were just dead in these bins with these like looked like injuries, and we noted that probably been beaten and killed. And yeah, that was just horrific.
And thrown away like garbage.
Garbage.
Yeah, I've seen similar out in eastern, United States, where they have a lot of the hog farms, and they have just dumpsters full of pigs. Just treating, sentient beings like they're an object. And that's just the nature of it. Like, I think it's interesting that we have like people like Elon Musk, and, they're talking about like regenerative farming and stuff. Like, the demand is the problem. Like, this is what supplies the demand.
Yes.
Are these systems. So it doesn't matter if you're doing it one way or the other. Like, you have to do it a certain way. And like, if you're supplying this amount of meat to the public, like, animals are going to be treated like commodities, and thrown away like garbage. Yeah, it's really disgusting. Yeah.
And to note, I've never been on a farm and been at all impressed. There's nothing impressive to see there. You can go to the best of the best, and there are sick animals, like, just routinely. There are animals who have been dumped in a bin. Anywhere you go, really, you'll find a bin with bodies in it. It's disgusting. And they're just all awful.
Yeah. And like you said, it's like a huge contamination risk. I mean, I'm not sure. It's the bird flu getting around in the UK. It definitely isn't here.
It was making the rounds early this year, I think, but now I think it's not as bad. Like,
Interesting.
I don't think so, but it seems to always be a problem that I see an article about bird flu, and it, like, the risk of it passing on to a mammal and stuff like that. It's just great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Another pandemic. Can't wait.
We just had our federal government mandate that the dairy herd be tested, because it's been spreading throughout the dairy herds, actually. So people are contracting bird flu from milk now.
Oh my God.
Which is, and like, you can just, all you have to do is just listen to what Vegan Gaze just said, and like how disgusting this place was. You could just open up a bin and see dying, dead animals already there. And like, think about how that would affect I don't know, like we shouldn't think of it in that way necessarily, but it's
No.
going to be bad for your health, you know.
That's
Um,
then that's the thing, that those are the things that will drive a change, because people talk about the environment, they talk about health, they talk about, you know, zoonotic diseases, and they are things that really push people, because, you know, you get concerned about your own safety, don't you? And that really puts you into
right.
action. The compassion element is like a secondary thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is frustrating, because in the animal rights movement, um, you know, just granting them their fundamental basic animal rights is, you know, you could be seeing it as compassionate. I just think it's like bare minimum.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
You know, that's the fundamental part of it. It's not, you know, these environmental factors. It's not, you know, the health risk that it could pose to humans, or that it does.
Right.
So it is frustrating to watch that, but
Yeah.
I suppose those things will aid,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, we
Yeah.
generally don't accept that when we're doing advocacy, right? Because we know from ourselves that we wouldn't be motivated by those things alone. Like it has to really come from a compassionate place. So
Mhm.
societally, it may come from these other things, but when we're talking like individuals, like they have to make this connection to animals, or they're just not going to stick with it. They'll end up like
Yeah.
all these ex-vegan YouTube people who make a video and give you content to react to.
Yeah. Joy, my favorite thing. I don't even do the ex-vegan reactions anymore, because I'm like,
Yeah, you can't do it anymore. It's
no, it's just so like, it's so boring just watching
right.
people like be so, I mean, it's the society that's allowed them to do it, to
Yeah.
be weak in their ethics. But to just watch them succumb to that and be weak in their ethics is just boring. It's
It
just
it
so
is.
like, it's just like, oh, another one. Wow, what a shock.
And they're all
Like,
very similar. Like everybody's giving the same reasons. And yeah. I mean, that's the thing. That's why like content that you provide has been so good, because like when you've been vegan for a little while, you've seen like all the content, you've seen all the arguments. And then if you're gonna watch any of that stuff, and sometimes you do feel like you need to like refresh, you kind of want to watch it with a buddy, like even
mhm.
like a virtual buddy who you've never
Yeah.
met.
I've been
Yeah.
that sometimes. I've been in that situation where I'm like, I can't watch this video. I need to either watch it on stream with everyone else, so I'm doing the same
Yeah.
thing, or I need to watch someone else watch it, because I'm not even gonna touch that.
Right. Right.
Um, I can't do it alone, because I get too mad. There's a few videos people sent to me, and I'm like, I'm gonna get really angry watching this, aren't I? So
Yeah.
I like either don't, or I will watch it with aid.
With aid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, are there any people on YouTube that you've been impressed by lately that you think like deserve a bigger audience that you want to shout out?
Um, Lucy Munson,
Hmm.
just really awesome. She's very unapologetic. Um, Trying to think. Debug Your Brain is always somebody who, like, he's made less content at the minute. I think he's quite busy with work. But Debug Your Brain has made some amazing videos, and he's fantastic. I'd love him to be full time as an activist.
Yeah, me
And
too. Yeah.
Natalie, like, you know, I think she made that really interesting video about vegans in a food desert. That was really interesting. And it showed that the problem, like yes, I'd do that, like I'd be vegan in those conditions, but I was vegan 10 years ago when I had no idea what I was like eating, and you know, that would be quite tough.
Hmm. Hmm.
um um oh, Mel and Steve as well.
Yeah, Mel and Steve have been great too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've had on Debug Your Brain and Natalie, both great people. And you know, Natalie's really evolved in her activism. She was just really involved in the Denver ballot measure. Like they were trying
Yes.
to ban slaughterhouses there, and did great work. The measures didn't pass, but
No.
you know they're precursors to where we're going to be at some point. And I think she was like a very great hire for them because she's a great communicator. Mel and Steve, yeah, have been like
On the
kicking
ball.
it out of the park lately.
Mhm.
Like I see them everywhere. And yeah, I just saw Steve do like a real like he kind of like he had I guess he had just gone to the gym or something. And he was like, look, I'm fed up with this. Like he kind of just like laid it all out. He's like, I'm fed up with how we're celebrating the holidays and this time of peace and everybody's just feasting on animals. So he kind of had this like kind of outpour that hopefully will resonate with people. But yeah, great people.
They show the
Um,
importance of community because they are a couple and they're both passionate about something. So they are out filming each other, alternating, taking turns, like having that network to like support you. Like, I don't know if you know the difficulty of like trying to film when you're by yourself or,
mm,
like, but having someone who supports you like to that level as well while you're
mhm.
doing something is fantastic. So it's really beautiful to see, them working together
Yeah,
at
yeah.
something, and it does show the importance of community and support.
Yeah, yeah, and we were talking about Tash and Jack, and I just
Mhm.
I have to assume they're both very strong people, obviously, but I have
Yes.
to assume that they couldn't do a lot of what they're doing without each other in
Mhm.
that way, supporting each other. Because yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've experienced this, like in vegan communities can often be quite fractured, and
Yes.
I've seen that a lot. We've obviously like seen a lot of drama in the vegan community
Yeah.
abroad. So yeah, I mean, it can be very destructive because people like it's very hard to do the activism. Like we're just talking about how much like mental health work we have to do just to like kind of, stay in the game. So we really don't need to be giving people excuses to not do it because their
No.
communities are turning on each other or something like that. Um, yeah.
Yeah, that's why with my community, like, I really like as soon as I start seeing them talking about something else and it starts getting a bit weird in the chat, there's a bit of funkiness happening, I shut it down.
You
And
shut it
it's
down.
not because I think other things aren't important. There's lots of causes, that I
Right.
am like very passionate about and do my own thing in. Um, but at the same time, I know how easy it is to fracture and break down a community. And I know what pushes the buttons. Like you see it, and I just try and stop it. Just so there's just one space where people know they can go to. They might have a couple more where they don't have that risk.
Yeah.
And that's why I am very much like, don't talk about all these things that are just going to annoy you, and let's not get too political. Let's not try, even though I have very strong political opinions, and I see
Hmm.
people who, and I'm like, oh my god, how can you even believe that? But
Yeah.
I do it for the sake of this one movement. Try and not encourage that.
Yeah, same. Like I have actually sort of like had some difficulty in that respect myself, where I've seen like people like get really focused on some other issues, but I've had to like, it also sort of works both ways, and then I have to like give people the space to do that. It's not like necessarily like in my channel or whatever, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, like I have found like, I just want to focus on the animals primarily. Um
Yes.
but not everybody is like that, and I just have to
No.
accept that too. Um,
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you can only say so much. I just try and discourage it, like, as much as I can. I can't control that people are going to get annoyed about certain things, and I don't want to censor it or anything. But I really am like, please, like, you've got to cultivate the space and
mhm.
lay your expectations out on the table, and then maybe people will follow suit. But yeah, like it's tough to navigate. That's why I don't really have like Discord communities or anything like that anymore, because the politics of trying to manage a group of people is very
Mhm.
complicated, and it kind of for me took away from the other work that I wanted to do.
So you're talking about like when you're on your channel, like modding and that sort of thing?
Yeah, like when I'm
Yeah.
live streaming,
Right,
like
right.
I,
Yeah.
I see people in the chat and they start fighting each other, and I'm like,
Yeah.
let's just talk about the stuff we have in common, and
Yeah.
try and
Yeah.
I try. Obviously, there's a limit that I've got in my mind, and then I'm like, right, I'll get rid of you.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah,
well, I can say, like, as someone who's been in your chats and stuff, it does seem like to be a very supportive community of each
that's
other, a
good.
very loving
Yeah.
community. It's that salad community that you've cultivated. You've grown some salads, haven't you?
Salads, yeah.
Yeah. So for people who don't know what we're talking about, vegan gays here, she calls people who are like just good vegan people or like dope people are salads. Yeah.
Salads, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, I know you had to work in a little while, so
Mhm.
I don't want to take too much of your time. But is there anything we didn't cover, or anything like? I know this was like kind of heavy. I wasn't expecting that, but I mean, some of these topics are, like sometimes you got to get into them. But
Mhm.
yeah, like maybe you could finish with like, what are some of the things that you like to do apart from animal activism that bring you a little bit of joy, other than like grindcore death metal?
Yeah, my I love death metal, listening to music, being in my close circle of friends is really important to me as well. Um Spending time with people I love, and having that separation is actually really important. I used to be all in,
Mhm.
and I lived and breathed it, but I've realized just how counterproductive that can be, and how dangerous it can be to the continuation of doing it. So I'd
Mhm.
rather spread myself out um, over the course of a longer period of time.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I really like going to the gym. And other than that, I need to find more hobbies. I do
Looking for
need
some
to find more
hobbies.
hobbies. Yeah, I'm quite I just watch videos like mindlessly really, and read some books. But I do need to find something that I really love doing. But right now it's the gym. I love the
Mhm.
gym.
That's
Yeah.
a good one right there.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
are you
Thank
doing
goodness.
like weights? Are you doing cardio, that kind of stuff, or what?
Um, Oh, I also do rock climbing.
Oh, nice.
I've
Yeah.
started doing that because I'm scared of heights, and I thought I'd challenge myself.
Nice.
But yeah, I do weights primarily, and then I do a bit of cardio.
That's pretty cool. And so are you like going to like a gym where you do rock climbing in a gym as well, like a wall?
There is a gym in that rock climbing, but no, that's separate.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
I just go every so often just for a bit of fun.
Nice. Yeah.
And yeah, I'm trying to get into like activities that are more physically demanding.
Mm.
So anything
When we
like that.
were Yeah, when we were in Wisconsin for the trial, that didn't happen. There was a rock climbing gym that we were all attending, and I had never done it before, and I was psyched. I was into it, but man, it was like busting up my hands so bad. But I was
Yeah,
really, I loved it. Yeah, I thought
yeah.
because I live in the mountains, I thought I'd be good at rock climbing, but I was not. Like you have to
It's
really,
hard.
yeah, you have to
Yeah.
definitely like strengthen those, like, the forearm and this the tendons. It's
I
just
have
great.
like some of the strength, but I don't have the confidence. That's what I'm working
I
on.
see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
fear.
Yeah.
I
Well,
end
that's
up doing the
good.
death grip because
I
yeah.
I've said that too, like in like my first video. I was like, the activism and all these kinds of things. Like I spent like a year just trying to challenge myself, like
Mhm.
doing different forms of activism that would make me uncomfortable. Same thing with like music and anything like that. Yeah, putting yourself out there is like it's never as bad as it seems, and it's usually like pretty rewarding when you do it. So
It
definitely an
is.
encourager.
Yeah, it makes memories, and makes you feel proud of yourself, which is
Yeah.
yeah, I want to feel more of that.
Exactly. Even the fails you can feel proud of because you're like, "I tried. I still
I
tried
tried.
it."
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
it's not like me to try.
It's not
I'm
like you to
really
try.
I give up very quickly, yeah, so,
Well, we
yeah.
should talk again in a few months, and we'll see if you're still doing it, and
Yeah, I'll give
I'll
you a
hold you to
physique
it.
update.
Yeah, yeah.
Physique.
Well, it's been really fun talking to you, just like I expected. Like you're extremely thoughtful. I just want to say before we go, like we're the animal rights movement's so lucky to have you, Elle.
Thank you.
You're a very, very compassionate person, very thoughtful. I don't mean to just put you on the spot and like butter you up, but I just think that you're awesome. You're like one of my favorite YouTubers.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, like thank you for all the great work you're doing and all you've done for animals. They obviously need us. So keep at
Mhm.
it. And
Yeah, thank you for the work you do. I really appreciate that, and thank you for reaching out to me and keep going with it.
yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
I'm like, oh, what did you? Oh, I'm just doing. I don't know what I'm
Hey,
doing.
you're busy. You're busy. I know that. So, and you're doing great work with vegan FTA as well. And like you said, like it's really hard to make a living as an animal rights activist. Like
Mm,
it's very impressive that you've been able to, start to do it. And it's just hard thing to maintain. I have found, like, because I've been able to do it for periods of time too, as well. And so, like because of the mental health stuff and like just like needing to take space, like I've found like I have to step back from it sometimes, and it's hard to
mhm.
do that with a job. But
Yeah.
but it's very impressive that you've been able to do it, and it's a testament to like how much respect you've garnered throughout the movement. So thank you, and keep at it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
All right, I'm gonna cut the. Let me see. I haven't done this in a while. Stop. Wait, where is in recording? There we go. It's been a while.